Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 5 of Sentinels from the Ashes, written by Alex Pagnadell and art by Justin Mason. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. Now this issue opens with a flashback in the past with Trask at his mother's funeral. And during this funeral was where Lawrence Trask got his first collar from his dad to block his visions of the future. After that, we transition to the present day back in Graymalkin Prison, where Philip confronts Trask. As of the last issue, Philip wanted to learn everything Trask knew about his Sentinel program. At this point in the story, Trask had already revealed everything, but it wasn't enough for Philip. As the torment continued, Philip took the extra step of forcing Trask to remove his collar as he left the room. And just like clockwork, visions of the future flooded his mind. With that happening, we then shift over to North Salem Farm, where Sawtooth confronts Justin. While there, Sawtooth said, "I can hear you in my head, and Drago told me I could trust you. He called you the junkyard boy." To this, Justin began to explain how he was captured and how his tissue was harvested to help create them. But as he was explaining, Sawtooth was shocked to realize that she was grafting. So as Sawtooth panicked about her condition, Justin continued, "You are of our flesh. Your core directive is to never abandon us, no matter what. The nanotechnology in your bloodstream is adapting your physiology for that purpose." And after Sawtooth expressed that she didn't want to change, Justin continued to say, "I'm sorry, but this organism's core directive is not under my conscious control." So after that, Justin then asked if it hurt, to which Sawtooth replied with no. And then on the next page, Sawtooth went on to punch the vat that Justin was trapped inside, which prompted him to ask what she was doing. And as promised, Sawtooth stated, "What's it look like? I'm getting you out of here." But as she went in for a second punch, a beam of energy struck her hand as a voice off panel stated it couldn't let her do that. So as Sawtooth lay hurt on the ground, she was shocked that her commander would do that to her, but all he could say was, "Lockstep is a little out of sorts right now." And then went on to say, "When this is all over, Perimeter will get you fixed up good as new." With that going down, we then jump back over to the prison with the Graymalkin soldiers looking for Drumfire, but due to the help of Charles's psychic abilities, they were unable to see them despite them standing right in front of them. So as they walked away, Charles confirmed that not only can they not see you, but they also are unable to hear you. So in a sneak attack, Drumfire threw a punch at Charles just to phase right through him. With that epic failure, Charles then went on to say, "Unfortunately that's not going to work. You see, I'm communicating with you telepathically from my cell, roughly 40 feet below them." Then followed up by saying, "Scurvy's done a good job making it well-nigh psychically impregnable. I've been trying to reach other members of your team with negligible results." And the only way he was able to connect with her was because they must have already had a connection before. Now to this, Drumfire shouted out, "Yeah, they did connect before because he is freaking Onslaught." Now this caught Charles off guard and led him to say, "I think of myself more as the Onslaught entity's progenitor, but given your history, I can see why your mind would initially mistake its astral form for mine." So as Drumfire shouted that Onslaught killed her mom, Charles just countered by saying, "And there will be time to inventory and account for all of my crimes, but not today. I've been trying to warn you about this place, about what you really are, but you've been shutting me out with those mood regulators. You know something's very wrong here." Now with that point made clear, Drumfire told Charles to get it over with, which he did, and with a single touch of her forehead, Charles filled her mind with the truth about everything. So after the information rushed through her mind, Drumfire collapsed onto the ground as Charles apologized and said, "My abilities are limited out here. I didn't have the luxury of subtlety." Following that, Charles and Drumfire share a small conversation where Charles tells her to help out Sawtooth and Justin. But in a vulnerable moment, Drumfire admitted to being afraid. But that was when Charles looked up at a damaged Sentinel and said he understood, but nobody said anything about her having to do it alone. Now with Drumfire all caught up and primed to fight, we then jump back over to Justin's secret prison. And when we get there, we get to hear Lockstep saying, "So this is what got everyone's panties in a bunch. Doesn't look like much to me." Now this prompted Ellis to say, "The protocol is clear. We don't know how many people in your situation Trask infected with this Seyfert strain, I suppose we should call it. We need to neutralize the source." So as Lockstep went in for the kill, Sawtooth's tech went on the attack and attempted to absorb him but failed completely. But this attempt to stop him did not go unnoticed, because on the next page, we see Sawtooth getting dragged all over the map. Now this was crazy, because as Lockstep beat her down, he kept pointing out how he was there to save her and save them all. But before he could land another hit, a gigantic hand came from above and hit him super hard. For on the following page, we see Drumfire show up with her Mark 6 Sentinel providing aid to Sawtooth. So as the two women talk to each other, we hopped over to Warden Ellis saying, "Can someone explain to me how our advanced Sentinel prototype just got crushed like a beer can at a Patriots game?" Now to this. Her technician stated it was possibly a new player, but Lockstep's HUD went down before we could see it. Now this was a major problem because they couldn't risk the specimen getting out. And at that moment, Perimeter stated it may be possible to maintain Lockstep's combat readiness without regard for his biological integrity. So as Lockstep lay on the verge of death, he requested Perimeter to call his son, but to his dismay, Perimeter went on to say, "I'm sorry, but that won't be possible. I have to commandeer your motor functions." And then went on to say, "Goodbye, I greatly enjoyed our conversation." And without his consent, Perimeter took over his body and went back on the attack with no care in the world for Lockstep's well-being. And with a burst of power, Perimeter used Lockstep's body and flew straight through the giant Sentinel and grabbed hold of Drumfire and said, "Please stop resisting. I have no wish to inflict further harm to Lockstep's body or yours. Come quietly and I will neutralize the Safert infection in your system." And as the fight continued, Perimeter then went on to shout, "You can still be saved, you need only yield." And Sergeant Hansen is now part of something greater than himself. So as Drumfire was going toe-to-toe with Perimeter, Sawtooth made her way over to Justin Vat and started to repeatedly punch it in an attempt to free him. And as for Drumfire and Perimeter, she managed to hit him point-blank in the face with her blast, which led them to crash into the ground. And just as Perimeter was about to return to his feet, Justin walked up behind him and simply touched him, and just like that, the fight was over. So with the battle over, Justin asked Drumfire what she wanted to do and if she was afraid. To which Drumfire stated, "After my mom died, I wanted to be a machine, to be free from fear. But a Sentinel is fear, made solid by the will of fearful men. Anything's better than that. Show me something new, junkyard boy." So with that said, Justin touched his damaged Mark 6 Sentinel and said, "Something new, yes. That's exactly what we'll need to be. They're going to send everything they have after us now. We'll need armor." A long time ago, a Mark 6 Sentinel was given a new core directive to never abandon me no matter what. But here's the thing, the Mark 6 Sentinel BIOS is locked. It's impossible to change the core directive unless the unit allows it. So why did the unit allow it? Perhaps it was so damaged that it believed me to be an extension of itself, a component in need of repair. But I choose to believe otherwise. I choose to believe it was keeping a promise. Now following all that, this final issue of the Sentinels ends with Trask sitting in a cell following Philip's integration saying, as follows, "In the future, they will be legion and there will be a terrible war of thunders. In the future, the dark X-Men will rise. In the future, a Wolverine will see the stars. In the future, the children of the atom will all hunt the Father and all who open the executioner's briefcase will be stung." And with that said, this final issue comes to an end. Now down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.